The price of cosmetic items in Elite Dangerous has almost doubled, at least for some of them, quite a lot of them in fact. Understandably though, this massive increase in paint jobs, ship kits and all the other cosmetics has caused some concern and even some upset throughout the Elite Dangerous community, and you'll notice this if you check out Reddit, the official forums and even Twitter. For whatever reason though, there doesn't seem to be any videos on this particular subject over on YouTube from the content creators, although I did find this one from Galnet News Digest, which is actually very funny, a nice humorous take. Either way, I'm also a little late with this video, so that's just the way these things go sometimes. So let's take a look at exactly what has happened. So right here you can see the price of ARX. This hasn't changed, you can still purchase the same amount of ARX for the same amount of money as you previously could. So 16,800 ARX is nearly £10, 25,000 ARX is around about £13. So just so everyone knows exactly how this works, you purchase ARX, which is a fictional currency with real currency, and then use those ARX to purchase in-game cosmetic items. And this is pretty much a standard practice for live service games. Now, last week, Lave Radio in episode 485 linked a fantastic website, a fantastic spreadsheet rather, from Dar Platter, who'd been maintaining a spreadsheet of all the Elite Dangerous cosmetic items. So therefore we have all prices that are current as of the 30th of April, and this is before the ARX price increase. According to this spreadsheet, if you wanted to buy all the cosmetics, it would cost you $4,800 or £3,600. Obviously that's going to be different now due to the price increases, and there may be some items that are on this spreadsheet that are not available on the store, and perhaps vice versa. Down the bottom of the spreadsheet we got various different tabs, various different sheets with all of the different items on there. So for example, we've got all the Adder ship paint jobs here. What we're going to do is see how much these were and how much they are now. The cheapest original Adder paint job was 300 credits, or 300 ARX rather. Over on the store we can see that Adders, let's just have a quick look here. Looks like the cheapest ones are now 1,600 ARX. Yeah, 1,600 ARX is the cheapest Adder paint job. But let's look at some specific paint jobs. We've got the Adder Pirate Faction, green, orange and so on here, 820 ARX. How much are these now? And as you can see, these are more or less doubled in price. They're now at 1,600 ARX, so that's up from 820 ARX. That is a pretty big jump. Meanwhile, the Adder Military Stripe paint packs have gone from 1,280 ARX up to 1,600 ARX, so a slightly smaller increase there, but an increase nonetheless. The story is the same right across the board. The Anaconda Crypsis Blue is 6,000 ARX and was originally at 3,250 ARX, so again, very close to a doubling of the price there. And it's not just ships. The Strike Combatant pack for the suits that you can wear in Odyssey is now 25,500 ARX and was originally 16,520 ARX, so that's an increase of around about 10,000 ARX. Or to put that in real world terms, an increase of over £5. So I could go on more here, there are plenty of examples, but the main point is, well, I think you get the main point, pretty much every item on the ARX store has increased, and some of them that have pretty much doubled. Now, all of this comes off news last week that Frontier have decided to start selling ships for real-world cash in Elite Dangerous, and these are going to start appearing on the Elite Dangerous ARX store very soon. It should be very clear to everyone then that Frontier are changing the way they are financing Elite Dangerous, their financial model for the game. Now this is obviously very much needed. The game does need, well, everyone wants the game to continue to be developed, myself included. We want to see future updates for the game, and all of this needs to be financed somehow. Obviously, up until this point, Elite Dangerous hasn't been making enough money for Frontier, because if it had, there would be much larger patches out there, and they wouldn't be, well, announcing changes like these financial changes they've announced over the past few days. But whilst we can all agree and support the fact that Elite Dangerous does need further development and that we would like to see it continue, as well as the fact that it's understandable that as a business, Frontier do need more money in order to develop Elite Dangerous, it doesn't necessarily follow that the methods in which they do that are all going to be good. Selling ships in Elite Dangerous, for example, is, well, it's all well and good and it's totally fine. I'm okay with that, but it does open a door and it is a slippery slope. And as a good example of that, last week many people were completely okay with the idea of Frontier selling ships, but this week some of the very same people are not happy with the idea of the cash shop increasing the price. So, well, we all have our personal line somewhere of what is and isn't acceptable. And personally, I think that is something that is really worth reflecting on. Just because a person feels okay with a change that's made in the monetization of Elite today doesn't necessarily follow they're going to be okay with the change that's made tomorrow. And I think we've seen a proof of that over the past few days. What we also very like to see is the continued evolution of Elite's cash shop, because cash shops always evolve when it comes to live service games. They do change over time. The introduction of new items, new products, as well as the different ways that things can be monetized. Now, that's not inherently a good thing, it's not inherently a bad thing, it just is what it is, it's the way these things work. All of that is just another way of saying that what we see for sale today on the Ark shop gives us no indication of what Frontier are willing to sell next week or next year. Ultimately, everything is up for grabs. Okay then, moving on to the price increase itself, and very specifically, the prices that we're seeing now for cosmetic items are very much in line for the cosmetic items that we see in other games, and these specifically are free-to-play live service games. Now, Elite Dangerous is not a free-to-play game, but it does very closely match the type of free-to-play model that we see in other live service games. It does have a lot of those gameplay mechanics. In other words, collecting various different resources to achieve various different unlocks. That is a classic gameplay method for free-to-play games. Whether or not I agree with it, I can totally understand why from Frontier's point of view they might think that is a good model to actually pursue. But all of it comes down to the way Frontier handled this, and as we've seen in the past, Frontier are not always great at handling these types of things, and they can be pretty bad when it comes to communication, although over the past few years they have improved in a variety of ways. But this Ark situation is not great. Why is that? Well, very simply, people hold a lot of Arks in stock. When you make a purchase like the one on the far right, for example, 85,000 Arks for £45, you'll have in mind the number of cosmetics you can actually purchase for that amount of Arks. And the fact is, if you've got 85,000 Arks, it's unlikely you're going to spend them all in one go. You're far more likely to be keeping hold of them to spend them as and when. The problem here is that once you may have been able to buy, for example, 20 cosmetic items for those 85,000 Arks on the 30th of April and before, today you can buy far less, maybe just half. And those are not specific numbers, they're just a random example, but I'm sure you get the idea. Now, there's also other few sides to all of this story. With the prices being what they are now, it's going to give people second thoughts and even third thoughts as to whether or not they're actually going to purchase any cosmetic items. There's a lot of people out there who are simply buying items just to support the game, and a lot of people out there as well who are buying these items because they like them. And when they see the prices that they are now, they're going to be less inclined to actually pick them up. And another point here, let's be real about this, these items don't have any real production costs or values to them. It's not as though Frontier have to pay higher costs for production materials to actually go into these items. They've been already created, they're sitting there digitally on servers somewhere, and a digital copy is made of them when you actually purchase them. So there's no increase in costs for this. Frontier is simply trying to ramp up the costs to make increased profits. So ultimately then, that is where we are with Elite Dangerous. Frontier are clearly in the middle of changing their profits for Elite Dangerous, and ultimately whatever they are doing as a company is working. We can see over the past few weeks their share prices have increased. They're now sitting, as of this recording, at £2.65, which is a big increase over where they were at their lowest point. But as always, that is an entirely separate issue for us game players. Ultimately, all many game players want is a fun game that is both fair in terms of the in-game activity as well as everything going on with its monetization. Let me know what your thoughts on this are in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Meanwhile, why not check out this other video on the screen right here. I'll catch you next time, and take care.